In this lesson, we're going to study and learn the pronunciation of 15 advanced words that students practically always get wrong. This video is going to be particularly useful to you if you are an upper intermediate, advanced, or a proficiency student. But even if you are intermediate, you should be able to follow the lesson and still learn a lot of useful things. As usual in these lessons, we're going to start by pronouncing these words on their own, and I'll give you tips, tricks, and lots of useful information so that you can remember how to say these words correctly. We're then going to put them inside sentences, because it's really important to practice words inside a longer context rather than just on its own. And finally, just to build on that further, we're going to put them into a story. So without further ado, let's start with our first word. And actually not just one. We're going to start with 5, because I've got 5 regular verbs for you. And you may be thinking, Magic, what the hell are you doing? This is advanced. Why are you teaching us the pronunciation of regular verbs? Well, you wouldn't believe how often I hear these verbs being mispronounced by students of English at the Cambridge Advanced, even at the Cambridge Proficiency exam. It's unbelievable. So we're going to study 5 regular verbs in English first. And I can bet you anything they're going to be very useful for you. So let's start with the first one. How would you say it? Well, most advanced students already know that we don't add any extra syllables here when pronouncing the ed ending. However, what lots of advanced students don't seem to know is how to pronounce AU inside this word. How would you say it? In general, in English, when you've got AU either at the beginning or in the middle of the word, you simply pronounce it as one long O sound. O. So it's launched. Launched. Really, really difficult to say cht at the end, and then also difficult to remember to say O inside this word. Launched. Let's have a look at our next verb. So what about here? How would you pronounce it? In here, we're also not adding any extra syllables with the ed ending, but the challenge here is that this verb is extremely counterintuitive. Why? Because if I just delete the first syllable, you can see the word chase, or chased in the past. And so this is how the majority of students want to say this word, as chased. But this is not chased. We pronounce it as chase or chased when it's on its own. It's just one syllable and it's stressed. But look what happens to the stress when you put those first 3 letters here. The stress is on the first syllable now, and this means that the following syllable is not important anymore, and we're going to say it in a very short way. Listen. Purchased. Purchased. If you speak international English, feel free to say that letter R in the first syllable and say purchased. Purchased. No problems here. But whatever you do, you need to stress this word on the first syllable, and remember that you are not chasing anybody. You are purchasing something. So, purchased. Another similar word is this one. So how would you pronounce the ending here? Well, for the moment, I'm just going to get rid of that D at the end. How is that word pronounced? Is it line or lin at the end? Well, I hope you got a good clue from purchased, because in here it's the same thing, and the ending is not stressed. Again, if this was a word on its own, you would, of course, pronounce it as line, because it would be stressed. But when it's at the end of discipline, It's no longer stressed, and it's a very short ending now. So discipline. And now we know that when we add the ed, we don't add any extra syllables, so we're simply going to say disciplined. Disciplined. So try to remember purchased, disciplined. Lots of students make mistakes with these words, and by putting the stress on the last syllable here, they just confuse their listeners. So try not to make the same mistake and learn that these endings are not stressed and pronounced in a very short way. Purchased, disciplined. Okay, let me shut up about the unstressed endings and let's go over to the next verb. How would you say it? Again, no extra syllable here at the end, but we've got the challenge of pronouncing the T-U-R-E here in the correct way. Now let me get rid of that D first, okay, and ask you how you would pronounce this word. How would you say it? How would you pronounce the T-U-R-E at the end? It's pronounced in a very similar way to the word chair in English. It's just a little bit shorter. Chair, chair. So it's structure. Yeah, remember about that short A in the first syllable? Struck, chair, structure, structure. And now add the D at the end, please. Structured. Very well done. Now finally, let's deal with this one. Would you add an extra syllable here or not? I hope you said you would. Because in English, if there is a T or a D in front of the ed ending, you have to add an extra syllable. This is why in the past want is wanted and need is needed. It changes from one syllable to two syllables. So in here, the same thing happens. You've got a T sound just before the ed, so we need to add an extra syllable and say tid at the end. And there's one more thing you need to remember about this word. How do you say that letter O inside the second syllable? It's O. It's pronounced as a diphthong, O and U together. O, just as in no or go. Eso. Associated. Associated. So did you find this lesson on regular verbs easy enough? I hope it was useful. Let's now move on to another word and explore the pronunciation of another ending. How would you say this word? Two traps here. First of all, it's a general rule in English that when you have C-A-L-L-Y at the end, you only pronounce it as one syllable. We pronounce any adverb ending in C-A-L-L-Y as cli at the end. Cli. You can apply it to any adverb you know that ends in this way. And in case of basically, an extra difficulty is to remember to say s inside this word. Lots of students, for some unknown reason, at least to me, try to pronounce that letter S inside basically as the Z sound, and they say basic. But that doesn't work in English. You need to say basic, basically, like sick. I'm sick today. Basically. Basically comes from the word basic, which is also pronounced with the word sick inside, with the S sound. So basic, basically. Another word on our list is also one of the most mispronounced words by advanced students in English. Not only advanced students, actually everybody pronounces it badly. How would you say it? The problem here is how we connect the CH to all those vowels inside. Now listen. Chaos. 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 And what about the adjective? It's also going to retain the initial pronunciation of chaos, and we're going to say chaotic. So it's chaos at the beginning of both of these words. Chaos, chaotic. And how would you say the adverb? chaotically, with the nice cli at the end. Excellent stuff. Let's move on. And let's focus on the pronunciation of an adjective which is the complete opposite of chaotic. Serene. Did you hear how I pronounced this word? We put the stress on the second syllable, pronounce it with a long E inside, and the beginning of this word is really, really short. Serene. Serene. Try to remember about that long E, and try to remember about serene because it's a wonderful word for your Cambridge exams. Now let's do another great word for your Cambridge exams. Instead of saying border, you can say, how would you say this word? This is a really tricky word because despite appearances, it's only 2 syllables long. That's right. That letter A inside is actually completely silent. We don't pronounce it. So we say boundary. Boundary. Just 2 syllables. And did you hear how I pronounced the letters OU in that first syllable? Exactly in the same way as I would be pronouncing OU in out or outside. Boundary. Boundary. Yeah, basically English pronunciation knows no boundaries when it comes to the chaos you encounter inside. Let's move on to the next word. And actually, from now on, all the words we'll be doing have an additional difficulty in terms of stress. Lots of students don't know how to correctly stress the words we're going to be doing. So let's start with this one. Where do you put the stress here? The first or the second syllable? Listen. Reckon. Reckon. This is quite an important word to pronounce correctly, because if you say recon, as a lot of students do, you're actually saying this word. Recon is a military term that refers to gathering intelligence, for example, before an attack or something. Recon, military intelligence. But this one is reckon with the stress on the first syllable. And hey, in case you didn't know that, reckon is a wonderful synonym that you can use instead of saying I think. So next time you want to say I think, say I reckon. I reckon that this is a pretty useful tip. Let's move on to the next word. And again, here, think about the stress. Where would you emphasize this word? Where would you put the stress? It's a typical adjective we use almost all the time in our daily conversations in business, academic settings, and even speaking to our friends. So where do you put the stress here? It's the first syllable. And there are actually 2 pronunciations, 2 possible pronunciations of this word. You can say innovative, stress on the first syllable, innovative, or innovative. Innovative, innovative. It doesn't really matter how you choose to pronounce this word, but whichever way you choose, you need to put the stress on the first syllable. It's probably more common for this word to be pronounced as innovative, but it's completely up to you to choose how you do it. Time for the next word. Where would you put the stress here? A lot of students are having problems and they're putting the stress on the first syllable, but that's not correct. This word is pronounced as component. Component, with a strong stress on the second syllable and a nice O sound inside that second syllable. Component. Remember that. It's an essential component of your pronunciation. Let's keep going. What about this word? Now, this is a pretty confusing word. It comes from French and it has an additional difficulty. We can actually put the stress here on the first or the second syllable. It all depends which accent you speak. So in British English, we say ballet. And in American English, we say ballet. But did you hear what just happened to the ending there? How were the letters ET pronounced? It was A, wasn't it? It doesn't really matter if you stress the word on the first or the second syllable. That ending has a silent T, and the letter E is pronounced as A there, as you would of course expect out of the chaos in the English pronunciation. Ballet or ballet, in both cases a silent T and an A at the end. Very, very difficult, and at the same time, very impressive if you say it correctly. So try to remember that. And now to our final word today. How would you say it? Where would you put the stress? That's the big question. So the stress in this word falls on the second syllable. We say worthwhile. Worthwhile. Another thing to remember is how to pronounce the letters W-O-R at the beginning of this word. Did you hear how I said them? They are pronounced as where, exactly in the same way as the plural past of to be. Where? Worthwhile. This pronunciation happens very often when the letters W-O-R are followed by another consonant. And oh my goodness, don't we have lots of common words like these? You can apply it to words like work, word, weld, worse, worthwhile. In all of these cases, you're going to pronounce W-O-R as where, exactly in the same way as the past plural of to be. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's important because you won't believe how often I hear students saying war, and it's not war, it's where, and you can pronounce that letter R there and say where, worthwhile. Just remember to bloody say where, not war. And this brings us right to the end of our list. Let's revise everything now and let's see how many of the words we have practiced today you can already remember. I'm going to show you each word first for you to think about how to say, and then you'll listen and check if you were right. Ready? Let's have a look. Launched. Purchased. Disciplined. Structured. Associated. Basically. Chaos. Chaotic. Serene. Boundary. Reckon. Innovative or innovative. Stress on the first syllable. Component. Ballet or ballet. It doesn't really matter, but there needs to be a silent T and the A sound at the end. Ballet, ballet. Worthwhile. Well done. And now it's time to put these words into sentences and practice them a little bit more. I'll show you each sentence first, give you a few moments to think about how to say it, and then again you'll be able to listen and check. Let's go. This innovative component breaks the boundaries of traditional medicine. Ballet is associated with structured and disciplined approaches. It was a chaotic launch campaign, but many users purchased the app. Basically, my boss reckons that chaotic people are often creative. It's often worthwhile to leave the city chaos for the serene countryside. Well done! Now, before we move on to the final part of this lesson, I wanted to let you know that if you'd really like to improve your pronunciation, you should consider joining my online learning community, Your English Upgrade. Your English Upgrade is a wonderful place if you want to improve your pronunciation and other skills, and join me learning English on one of the 2 weekly webinars that are available to any member of the community. When you become a member of Your English Upgrade, you immediately gain access to pronunciation hacks, a full pronunciation hacks course that I've designed that will help you sound better and more confident in English, and, of course, you can download all the PDFs and audio practice files that go with this video and any other video that I post on YouTube. The link to the community is in the description. I'll see you there. And now, let's come back to our 15 advanced words and practice them inside a little story. Put your headphones on and try to read the text together with me. After every sentence, I'm going to give you a moment for you to still work on those words that are causing you most difficulty. Ready to start? Let's have a look. I prefer ballet to contemporary dance. I reckon it's the precision and structured boundaries that resonate with me a lot. I have to say that I hate the chaos so typically associated with modern routines. Ballet's disciplined elegance completely captivates me. I recently purchased tickets for a new ballet performance. It launched last month and it was supposed to be innovative. But all it really meant was that the performance included many elements of modern dance. There were moments when everything was chaotic on stage and the sweet, serene balance of traditional ballet was completely broken. I can't say I really liked the performance, but it was worthwhile as it reassured me that I will basically never be a fan of contemporary dance. Well done! Now if you've got that far in the video and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, that would be a great moment to do so. Give the video a like, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you don't miss out on any new videos I publish. And if you still have energy to practice more pronunciation, why don't you check out one of these two videos, and I'll see you right there.